What you looking at?
Parshas Shlach.
I farted.
So we have a fascinating mimer and another fundamental mimer, beginning with Daf Lamed Zayin. That's 72. Vayemru al kol adas b'nei Yisrael. It's the second mimer. According to your notes, have we learned this in the past?
No, sir.
I don't think so. Okay. We have some concepts here that we've learned in the past, but they're with different explanations or different angles. We should clarify it a little bit more and explain it on a deeper level. The context, of course, is that the Yidden want to go into Eretz Yisrael, but they tell Moshe Rabbeinu that we want to first send spies, which is a normal, human way to deal with a country that has 7 nations. You want to go conquer it. You need to figure out a strategy. The problem is we weren't doing anything normal till that point. Normally you don't leave Egypt. Normally you don't get through the sea. Normally you don't get manna from heaven, etc., etc. All of a sudden, I don't know. What's even a bigger issue is that after we send spies, we decided to take the opinion that says it's not good, it's bad, and worst of all is that we want to go back to Mitzrayim. They told all of the Jewish people, etc. Yeshua and Kalev, they were 2 out of the 10 spies who they said, despite the other 8 saying how terrible it is, they said, despite the other 10 saying how terrible it is, these 2 said, we say it's great. The land that Hashem is giving to us is Tev Haaretz Ma'id Ma'id, very good. 2 times the word very. Im Chavetz Banu Hashem, if Hashem wants us, Behevi Yesanu Al Aretz Hazeis, He's going to bring us to this land. When Son Alanu is going to give it to us, Eretz Asher Yizavas Chalav Udvash. They basically tell the Jewish people, it's a great land Hashem wants to give to us. It flows with milk and honey. Don't listen to the other guys. This is super. Question number 1 is, why does Torah say it's exceedingly good? Say it's a good land. Torah doesn't use flowery language as a principle. And even if it is, you already said very good. Very, very good. So very, very, very. You know, what's this idea?
Because in addition to milk and honey, they have English muffins and jelly donuts, I think.
Sure, and shakshuka.
Yeah, that's right.
And also it's a land that flows milk and honey. So you have, it's very, very good, and it flows with milk and honey. To understand this, we need to first introduce the source, the root of the action of the Meraglim. How come such great people did such a terrible deed and they bad-mouthed Eretz Yisrael? L'mayla, what is the source of these Meraglim above? Meaning where they come from spiritually. Not only do they not want to go into Eretz Yisrael, but v'ginui sachulu, they actually bad-mouthed and spoke negatively about Eretz Yisrael. They're good people and they're holy people. It's coming from somewhere. Let's understand the root. It's obviously corrupt, it's a mistake, there's punishment for it, but it's not, the intention wasn't all bad. It's explained in Eitz Chaim from Chaim Vital. The Sheresh HaMeraglim, M'Bchinas Elam HaMachshava Anikra Leah. The root of the Meraglim is from a world called the world of thought, referred to as Leah. We have Leah is thought, Rachel is speech. The Meraglim, who did such a terrible mistake, their source, where they come from, they originate from, their neshamas are from the world of Machshava, corresponding to Leah. They were from the generation of the desert, Shenikru Der Deah, which the generation of the desert are referred to as, the nickname, the generation of knowledge. They belong to the mind category. Their root is from the world of Machshava, Leah. Therefore, they did not want to lower themselves from the state of Machshava, which is where they originate from, to go into Eretz Yisrael, which is obviously a physical place, and the land of Israel, that emanates from the world of speech, which is lower, of course, than thought. That is an ikras rachel, which is called rachel. So, the root of the problem is because their source is machshava. That's the level of the neshama. Some machshavas come from machshava, some come from dibur. They come from machshava, and Eretz Yisrael emanates from dibur, which is rachel's level. I don't want to descend from this situation and end up in a place and have to operate on a level of Leah. It's lower. I don't want to be demoted. Rachel, thank you. To understand the explanation of these things, to understand this, because it's known that the main mitzvah of going into Eretz Yisrael is laseis ba'aretz. The main mitzvah of going into Eretz Yisrael is to work the land, to do action in Eretz Yisrael. And he'll say that there are many mitzvahs that they depend on Eretz Yisrael, which means they're conditional. You can't do them out of Eretz Yisrael. Shemitah, Meiser, many Meisers, Meisres, Truma, many things, even the ones that we do have now, out of Eretz Yisrael, a lot of it is only according to Rabbanon, and different things like that, like Chala. It's the Rabbanon out of Eretz Yisrael. So the point of going into Eretz Yisrael was to be able to fulfill actionable mitzvahs, which otherwise you can't do. Dahainu l'kayim sham ha-Torah mitzvahs, meaning to fulfill over there Torah mitzvahs. Ki yesh kama mitzvahs shetluya ba'aretz dafke. There are several mitzvahs, many, that are dependent specifically on the land. K'mei binyan beis hamikdash, for starters. To build a beis hamikdash, you can't build it out of Eretz Yisrael. B'dei meyan and similar ones. There's many mitzvahs associated with this, and you can't do them out of Eretz Yisrael. What's the concept? The main idea of Torah mitzvahs is to separate between the pure and the impure. It means the level of birurim, elevating or refining. Refining is a better word here. To refine the good from the bad. So, you want to go into Eretz Yisrael because that's where you can do Torah mitzvahs. The main idea of, or the function of Torah mitzvahs is refining, separating the bad from the good. Then you elevate the good, you get rid of the bad. That's the real function of what happens when Torah mitzvahs is fulfilled. Now a little background. Where's the bad from? What's going on? Why are we stuck with this task of separating the good from the bad, elevating it and so on? Through the Shvira, we know that before this world we had a world of Tayu, and it shattered. In that world of Tayu there were kings, 70 kings, original kings of the world of Tayu, and Noflu Rapach Nitzutzin, they shattered. Now kings, even in a world of Tayu, which is not exactly a functional, practical place, that's why it didn't work, but there's a lot of spirituality there. And the shattering of it caused certain remnants of the pieces that were there, in this case kings that were there, to end up in this world. And Noflu Rapach Nitzutzin de Tayu, the 248 sparks of Tayu fell down, V'nislabshu b'neiga, and they are now enclosed in klipa, which is known as noiga. Noiga is transparent or translucent, meaning it's the type of klipa which is called neutral. You could elevate it. We live in a world that has good and bad and neutral. And because of what happened before this world, spiritually speaking, the sparks, 248 of them, ended up in this world in items that are neutral. In food, in activities, in materials, and so on. And we have the responsibility to separate the good from the bad. Some of those things are bad, or they could end up being bad, but there's a spark there that we want to get out. When the slabshu b'negal, yes muravim tevara, to be mixed, good and bad. Kayedu, as it's known. Vehem itzrichim aliyah, and they need to be elevated. These sparks that fell from the crashing of the world of Tayu, breaking of the world of Tayu, they ended up here. How does this elevation happen to these sparks, which need to go back up? Through the fact that they get refined and separated first from the bad. In other words, you differentiate what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong. Which is tied to them. And then after you separate the good from the bad, they're not attached anymore to the bad. They could go up to the source of their root where they emanate from. So we have a task given to us, the sparks that fall from Tayu. First of all, we want them for a lot of reasons, but our mission is elevate them back to their source. The way to do that is to separate it from the bad, meaning there's a clarity, there's a purpose, and then you use it, you elevate it. Yeah? And that could be English muffins.
That could be English muffins. I think the Arizal also wrote about that.
How is it different from the kalim that broke down and turned to these sparks that are supposed to elevate?
It's the same. I don't know why he uses king specifically here, but the number is the same. It's a different way to describe it, I think. It's just... This is the idea of actionable mitzvahs. Mitzvahs asay or mitzvahs leis asay. Positive do's, have a mezuzah put on its phone, and leis asay, refrain from certain activities. Sha'idea leis asay, through a person fulfilling the not doing mitzvahs, meaning he doesn't do what he's not allowed to, nifrat atayv min hara. Through that process, good gets separated from the bad. Sha'idea asiya v'chenas aliyas atayv l'mayla. We have to have there's two parts to this process. One is you separate the good from the bad. It's not attached. And then you elevate it. So a yid does two things. He does sur meira, he stays away from bad, which means he fulfills the leis. I say he's not stealing. By not stealing, or whatever, not eating something that's forbidden, whatever the example is, he then takes and elevates the next step is to elevate what's there to a higher level. So the spark crashed, it ended up here. I access it. Certain things I don't do. I separated the good from the bad by not doing it, and then I take it and I elevate it. And it goes back to its source. We're trying to understand what going into Eretz Yisrael is about. It's about mitzvahs. Mitzvahs is about this process.
You were going to ask, is this why we use sparklers on the 4th of July?
Or the whole month before.
Right.
Some opinions, according to Beis. I don't know, there's Marshall.
Separate it and then elevate them. How?
Through the positive mitzvahs. So it's not always the same activity. Like, I didn't eat treif, then I put on tefillin. So this separated bad from good from bad, and this took it up. Through doing it, you have the idea of elevating the good above. Dahainu. Let's give an example. Kishaisa is a mitzvah, he's doing any mitzvah, kigoyin, shenetel esrig, he takes an esrig, which is just a fruit. But you're taking it in order to do the shaking of the wool of an esrig. Oit semer, or wool. You take a piece of wool, and you're making out of that wool tzitzis. Shah esrig v'hat semer, the esrig and the wool, they're from the translucent level. They're neutral. They're not good or bad. They're just a physical object. The good is mixed there in the bad. When he does the mitzvah with that object, in this case it's wool making tzitzis, you're bringing forth into this piece of wool the light of Hashem, the nichlal hatoiv, and then the sparks that are in this piece of wool that fell from Tayu are now being included in that light that I just brought down. So the mitzvah brings godliness here, and then it, I guess with a magnet, pulls it up and takes it. Probably works like fire, where it consumes it.
So I heard once there's a halacha that if a siddur has never been used by a yid, it does not go to Geniza. That it's only once there's actual davening and connection between the neshama and yid.
Therefore, you're right. Therefore, if you look at the back of a printing press, the garbage is, or the recycling bins have a lot of stuff in there. Because it was never, you press the wrong button and you have thousands of pages. No one read it. Technically, it's not Shem Hashem, right? It's pasuk and so on. You should wrap it up though.
Something.
When a person does the mitzvah with that, he's bringing forth the presence or the resting of Hashem into this object, and then the good gets included. The sparks of tayu, which you have sparks that because they were broken, because of the breaking of the world of tayu, they ended up in these items, esrig, wool, and so on. They now go up and get included be'erin seif in Hashem, hanimshech adiyah mitzvah azais, and the light which comes forth through this mitzvah. Okay, so basically he says how this works. You took a physical object, it has its own set of sparks in there from tayu, but you did a mitzvah with it, and now you brought the erin seif here, because the action of the mitzvah brings godliness down, and through that the spark that's there goes up, gets elevated to its source, which is the purpose. I'm going to elevate all these sparks. The omnam, however, is that this will not work. In other words, this process won't happen unless he first separated the bad from the good. You have to become a tool that's susceptible to the dwelling of Hashem. You have to separate bad from good in order to have the Erin Seif to come here. We said the Erin Seif has to come, and then it can go up. But if you don't separate the bad from the good, then Erin Seif is not going to come here. Mitzvah, azai, then specifically, sheyasa mitzvah yamshech Erin Seif liyesheda b'ydei skal bechulu. You can't just show up and do the mitzvah. It's not going to work. You have to. There's a step that happens before. I'll explain. There's specifics which matter. You can't say I took a fruit and I made the bracha on the shaking lulav and it's done. It's a certain type of fruit with certain specifics, and has to have a certain measurement. And certain cases will not work. If you have those proper prescriptions, we'll call it, then it'll work. Let's see it in the word that he uses. It's the idea of the specifics of the mitzvahs. Esek has to be this and this way. You can't say, big deal, I got an esek from Italy, I paid hundreds of dollars, but there's chas v'shalom, whatever, the thing broke off. Well, okay, Hashem doesn't care about details, whatever, it is what it is. But if you missed one of those specifics, it's puzzle. Tzitzis is the same thing. If you're missing one string, it's puzzle. They're not a keli to receive a likus. The mechanism requires two things. You have to separate the bad from the good, and then you use it, and in that process, the light comes down and it elevates the spark. The spark gets elevated. It won't happen unless you separated the good from the bad, and that is through getting it right. I can't just take anything and say this is tzitzis. It has to be wool. It has to have a certain number of strings. If you're missing one of them, it's not going to work. Even though technically, I'm doing whatever, but you're not bringing Erin Seif here. You got to plug in the toaster, or else it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. So the right frequency.
Toaster example is directly related to English muffins.
English muffins and toasters are indeed connected. That is kashrus right there.
Similarly, tzitzis, if you're missing one string, they're puzzle, invalid. They're not a keli to the resting of a likus. And basically we understand from here, the main purpose of Torah mitzvahs, first you have a shomera and a seitov, it's to elevate, refine the bad from the good. You got to separate, sift out the bad from the good, get access to the good and elevate it. That's the main purpose why we do mitzvahs. Shenes Arava de Ashvira, which got mixed in here through the breaking of the world of Tayu, La Afride Me'ara, separated from the evil, Ula Haloisei Lasharshe, and elevated to its source. It's very important. It's not, we live in a world where the feel good is what sells. And whatever, it's the same flavor. It's, holiness or Jewishness, we're in. As long as they're focused in the right direction, their mind's in the right place. It's not. You need specifics in order for it to work. It's not, doesn't say all or nothing, but for the mitzvah to be tzitzis, it's got to have tzitzis. For the thing to be a esser, it's got to be a esser. Ach be'emes ein ze muvan. But truth be told, this is not understood. Heich yigrim ha'odam b'chinas hashras erin seif. How is a person going to cause the resting of erin seif? Aydei she'esa mitzvah. You are a human, and you're going to do a mitzvah, and somehow you're going to bring the infinite light of Hashem here. What connection and attachment does he, the person, have to godliness? I'm going to put on tefillin, and I'm going to surround myself with tzitzis. Somehow through that I'm going to cause that the infinite light is going to dwell here. So it's not. What's the connection? Or to cause a separation from the good to the bad. I didn't put it here. And the bad is mixed with the good is mixed with the bad. And somehow I'm going to do an act and I'm going to separate it. How does this work? Right? There's a cheeseburger and I'm not going to eat it. Somehow, because of that, I'm going to separate the good that's in there. I mean, the truth is that that's treif, whatever, but I'm going to separate the bad from the good. What's the connection? Who am I to have this ability?
I put the most delicious vegan cheese on that kosher meat for you, Rabbi. And you're not going to eat
Carbs.
Gluten-free, fun.
Okay, so that's our question, yeah?
I'm feeling hungry. See what you've done.
So in the process of trying to understand why Torah uses the term, the land is very, very good, ma'id, we have to understand why we went to Eretz Yisrael in the first place. With the source of the Meraglim not wanting to go in, because they're from the world of Machshava. They don't want to go down to the world of Dibur, from Leah to Rachel. And to understand that, we have to appreciate the whole idea of Eretz Yisrael is mitzvahs. Going into Eretz Yisrael is to be able to fulfill mitzvahs. Many mitzvahs you could only do in Israel. They're contingent on land. Building a base, Hamikdash, Trumas, Meisers, and so on. What's the whole idea of a mitzvah? A mitzvah takes the spark from the world of Torah, which ended up here, and elevates it. And the process, how that's done, is twofold. Sur Meirah, which you separate the bad from the good, and then you have the Asay Toiv. The Sur Meirah separates it, and now you become a proper vessel for this process that Erin Seif dwells on you, and when it dwells in that activity, it pulls up the sparks that are there from creation when they fell down from the kings of Tayu. Okay. But our problem is, our question left is, how am I able to do that? Who am I? What's the connection I have with Erin Seif that because I'm going to do a certain act, I'm going to cause godliness to dwell here or bad to be separated from good? I'm eating, or I'm shaking an ass, so on. The idea is like this. Yuvan will be understood based on what the Zayar tells us. Kad iskafya sitra achra. When you subdue the other side, you bend it. In other words, the other side is pushing at you or enticing you, and you push it away. That process, whatever it is that you want, but that process of bending the other side, klipa or tuma and so on, is stalek ikara de kuchabrichu b'kulu almin. You're causing the glory of Hashem to extend, go up, but it means to expand in all of the worlds. I'm going about my merry way, but somehow Sitra Achra came my way, the impurity came my way, the other side, and I pushed it away. There's many, many manifestations of that, different levels, but whatever it was, I said no. That act of me saying no, which to impurity, to the other side, causes Hashem's glory, it's a response, Hashem's glory to extend all over, meaning on my life and in the world that I'm in. It's known there are two levels in general in Ishtalshlos Eilames. The flow of divine into this world, light into this world, works generally in two levels. These two worlds that that the flow of air comes down is referred to either as circle or lines, right? Egulim and Yesher. Now, it's not that. Don't get lost with the Kabbalistic terms. I'll explain it. There's circle and there's lines. Now, circle coming down versus a line coming down is, we'll say it inside, but the circle means that everything is there, just like a circle. There's no top, there's no bottom. It's equal. It's consistent. It's smooth. That means all of the levels are included there. However, they're concealed. So you have Chachma, and you have Chesed, and you have Netzach. Everything is there, but it's very concealed. So on the one hand, it's all there, but you can't see, oh, that's Chachma, and this is the result of that, and that's the manifestation of that, and this is Malchus. You just see a circle. A line means it's not Behelim, it's not concealed anymore. It's straight. You can see there's a top, a middle, a bottom. It represents the level where it comes down into this world in a revealed way. Meaning it's much more active, it's felt, it's revealed. These are the general two ways, which is not either or, they both exist in this world, the flow of godliness into this world, right? We want to understand how is it that I'm going to do a mitzvah, I'm somehow going to cause the elevation of the sparks and so on, separating bad from good. So we said that when you do a skafia, the glory of Hashem goes up, meaning it expands everywhere, into all the worlds. The way that works is because there's two levels of flow into this world of divine energy. One is igulim, which are circles, and one is yesher, which are lines or straights. And circles means it's concealed, lines mean it is revealed, or much more. So, right where we're looking for, it's
pronounced.
Yeah, it's pronounced. Thank you. So it says like this. They're called igulim v'yesher, circles and lines. Nefesh v'ruach, and it's also referred to as nefesh and ruach, which are two levels of the neshama. We know we have five. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai yechida. Nefesh and ruach. I'm assuming that nefesh is going to be the yesher, the straight, and ruach is going to be the igulim. Okay, as it's known. The difference between if it's igulim, circles, or it's yesher, that by a level of circles, the lights are included there in an inclusion b'vchinas helim. So they're concealed. It's a circle. It's all there. However, you can't see it. Without getting divided into many details, b'vchinas gilu in a revealed way. That's why it's called a circle. It's there, but it's not delineated in all of its details. Just like a circle is equal in one equanimity, and there's no division there at all. It's a circle. There's no top, bottom, beginning, end. This is where it started, and this is where I closed it. It's a circle. But the level of straight, when the lights start to be revealed as they come down, and they get divided into specific details, then now it's included, it's comprised of the yud, which is a condensed form. And in that yud, it comes from another yud, meaning within that it's even smaller, more condensed. And now it's starting to be revealed. So the line represents a flow of divine energy where you could see that was a yud. Now it's being expanded. Now it's a more specified level, and I could appreciate what this is and what it's not. Okay, so there's two ways how it comes into this world. Hashem operates in this world anyways, right? It's here whether you see the sphere or not, whether you get it or not. And sometimes it's much more specific and detail oriented.
With regard to the yud, you normally see it that way. Sorry.
It's much easier and helpful to understand this concept with a mushal, and he brings a mushal here. This is like cause and effect. Now, ila and ol is not exactly cause and effect, but let's use cause and effect. It's like a cause and effect. The cause surrounds the effect, and it includes it. For example, we're on to mashal level like 4, right? Because we said there's, I think circle and line are also some kind of mashal, right? Circle is concealed, line is pronounced. And we said it's ila ol, cause and effect. Now that is, for example, a teacher and a student. For example, a teacher that's giving over seichel to his student. When the teacher needs to give over an intellectual concept to his student. He has to descend from his level and to condense his intellectual capacity. Now you got to look at the child, and this is a student, whatever it may be, but let's say a child. You have to look at the thing and see what could they understand? What's their world? What's the capacity of their brain? Like, what can I explain that I'll actually get? I know what I want to say. Right? You're trying to explain to this child an idea, right? But you know, after looking at it, they're not really going to get it. So, what can they get? And then the teacher gives over to the student the idea based on the estimation or the level of the child. That's a process, right? He's estimating, condensing, and then giving over. But you want to tell your kid something, you have to like think how they could process it. But however, in the essence of his own seichel of the teacher, whatever he's going to give the student, he has it in his mind before the teacher, from beginning to end. It's just how am I going to convey that, which example am I going to use, how much of it am I going to say. But it's all there. So the seichel, it's like the ila, the cause, is fully there. The circle, it's all there. Now, I'm not going to reveal everything, and I'm going to give it over, right? I'm going to explain to them the math concept to this little kid. It's all in there. I'm just not going to use the terms that we usually use, and I'm not going to give the whole entire thing. I'm going to give a tiny little flavor of it. It's all there, right? That's an example where it's concealed. It's an igulim, but it's not coming down in a pronounced way. And also the actual hashpa, the flow that you're actually giving over the information to the student, which is really like the format and the way of this student's seichel. The teacher has it in his mind in one scan.
In one scan?
Skira means a scan. In other words, it's one look, a glance, I have the whole thing. Now, for the child, it's a whole, for the student, it's a whole process. It's the teacher is evaluating the child based on whatever he knows. Okay, so based on what he's capable of understanding. What's his prior knowledge? How smart is he? All the pieces together, he's thinking back and forth, okay? There's a whole process going on. And then he gives him something. That something that he gives him is fully in his mind before he said it, before he distilled it to that level. It's all there. It's just in a way that is concealed. Bilti is chalkos l'chalakim. It was not yet divided into parts. Also, after it came down from the teacher to the student, in the beginning of his grasping, when the student is starting to comprehend what the teacher is telling him, it's a new idea. At that moment, when the student is starting to process it, the intellect of the Talmud is surrounded, just as an example, of the light of that seichel which comes from the teacher to him. The student is now receiving a new light, right? It's new information from his teacher. Now, the teacher is a dumbed down level, so to speak, right? It's watered down, it's changed, it's distilled for the child. But as the student receives it, it's surrounding him completely. He has this like new light of information. It's like, really? And really, compared to the teacher, it's a small amount. And he worked to get it to small. But in that small amount that has everything in it, that when the student gets it, it's surrounding him completely. So the beginning of his comprehending it, the intellect of the Talmud is completely surrounded from the light of that seichel, which the Rav is giving him. And that light of seichel is extra, meaning it's over the intellect of the Talmud, and it surrounds him from all angles. Okay. So it's like a circle, right? It surrounds him completely. He doesn't get it. He's understanding a little bit. In other words, having an effect on him. For the teacher, it's not like, okay, let me give him something. No, he gives him the whole thing, and whatever he's giving him, he sees it in a second. But he has to go through a process in order for the student to be able to get it. It's a process in his own mind. It's the type of information that he's conveying, and when the student gets it, he starts to process it, and it really surrounds him. To understand this deeper. Well, what time is it?
It's 5 minutes.
When the beginning of his receiving it, the seichel that he is grasping, he does not yet get it in its depth. I hear it from the teacher an idea. I don't comprehend it fully. His grasping of the intellect, it's only general. I don't want to say superficial, but it's only general comprehension. Bilti is chalkos, without dividing it. In order, it's not yet in a situation where it could stand on all the parts of the intellect and all the explanations. I got an idea. There's so much depth there that the teacher tried not to say right away. And even what he did give me, I'm getting it. I get the general take on it. I don't have the specifics. Didn't process it yet. It didn't happen yet. And therefore the general seichel, even though I got it, like the teacher explained me an idea and I understand what he's saying, but it is only in a way of makif. It's surrounding me in a what's the right word? Not superficial, but surrounding me in a general, transcending way. It's surrounding me. This is a mashal for the esesfiris of Agulim. So obviously it's not a physical thing, but the example that Chassidus brings from Kabbalah, that 10 spheres of the Gulim, is just like the teacher that's giving over to the student. Everything is there, right? But I can't give him the whole thing. He's not going to get it. So I'm giving it to him a small part. Now that part that I give him, it's fully surrounding him. He gets it, part of it, whatever I'm giving him, but the rest of it he doesn't get, and even what he does understand, he can't divide it into specifics and say this is what it is and this is what it's not. It's taking time. That's how the SSRs come down fully. It's here, but the person is only getting, or the world is only receiving a little bit of that in a felt way. The rest of it is very concealed. Now, in the teacher-student analogy, over time the student gets it, and it starts to manifest, and he thinks about it more, and he accesses it more. Once he has principles, he can understand more, and so on and so forth. But Mitzvos to be continued. The idea is that to understand how we have the ability as us to somehow divide bad from the good, separate it, and elevate the sparks, it's because, by way of introduction, there is a process, how light comes into this world from Hashem. A 2-level process. There's a circle and there's lines. Now we're onto the circle. It's all there, but it's concealed.
Tomorrow?
Mitzvah Hashem. Tomorrow?
Tomorrow?